I love what I do. I will probably never retire because everywhere, anywhere is a story. I could do a story on each and every one of you. No problem. Whether it's a feature story, a tragedy, a drama, any, I could talk to you and in a second do a story on it. And that's what a good journalist does. And so I will tell you quickly that I grew up in Ohio, Napoleon, Ohio, a small town of 10,000 people outside of Toledo. My parents were undocumented workers. Those people, some people call illegal aliens. By the way, that's wrong. I never would look at my parents as criminals. They came to this country actually because they were in love and they were running away from their own parents, but at the same time, to find better opportunities. And so me and my brothers and my sister are a success today because of my parents. My parents came here. My father knew English. My mother had a third grade education, but they were unstoppable. And I want you to hear the story about my parents because I want you to realize that you are educated. You're college educated. And if immigrants, especially undocumented people, can come here and survive and thrive, then nothing can stop you. My father went to work at General Motors. We picked tomatoes, by the way, until my father got a job at General Motors. Eventually, he became a union leader. You saw recently that General Motors went on strike. My father would be the ringleader. So I grew up going on rallies and strikes, standing there with a little sign, pay people better working conditions, better insurances. I was one of those kids with my father, but I had a front seat to a father that gave a voice to people who were ignored. And by the way, I hate the term voice for the voiceless. There is no such thing. You are a voice for those who have been ignored. Because as Latinos, as Blacks, as LGBTQ, whatever, we've always had a voice. My mother was a migrant rights activist. We picked tomatoes as children because we were surrounded by Mexican people and there were people that my mother could communicate with. But my mother, fought for water. I mean, imagine being in 100-degree temperatures, picking tomatoes, and these farmers didn't have water or a porta potty. They just wanted you to go pee on the tomatoes over there. And my mother said, no, we have dignity. And so if I'm kind of a very strong-willed, outspoken Latina, it's because of my parents. I had a front seat to people who fought for other people. And as I'm growing up, my father got the first Spanish language radio program in Ohio because he literally, and this is, now remember this, create your own opportunities. He literally was driving by a radio station in some little town in Ohio and stopped and said, hi, I'd like to have an hour on your radio. And the guy goes, yeah, weekends pay me $25. And so my father paid $25 to have a radio program in this little town called Fostoria, Ohio. And so I would watch him. I would go with him. He would make me translate, things in the newspaper into Spanish, things like that. So, to make a long story short, I graduated from Bowling Green State University. I worked in Toledo. My first job was in Toledo, Ohio as a reporter. I do not even know how this news director hired me because I literally had no internships. I'm sorry, I could not do anything for free. I went to a state school, I couldn't afford college. So I had to have 3 jobs and volunteer on campus. But I'll tell you all that, when I was up against someone like, I remember interviewing for a job in San Antonio. I was up against someone from Harvard, okay, Harvard. And then I had my story and I had a better story than her because I had 3 jobs. I volunteered, I said, I didn't have an intern. She went to Harvard. And she's talked about it often, which is beautiful. But, I literally took me 4.5, maybe almost 5 years to go through college because I had to pay my own stuff. But I was debt-free, by the way. And so, the thing is, you create your own opportunities. I tell you this, and you create your own story, right? Or, I didn't create it, but it happened. And so I went to Toledo and I told that news director because he told me, you don't have an internship. You don't even have a reel. I mean, Rebecca, what do you have here? You just have a college degree. I said I did. But I worked hard and, as you can see, I'm very outgoing. And, I was president of, by the way, I was the first woman of color to break into a white sorority, the white sorority system at my university. I like breaking barriers, by the way, so do that too. I went to Toledo, the guy just hired me, just because I impressed him with he didn't care if I didn't go to, a school with a big name. He didn't care if, my grades were terrible, you guys, because I loved to party in college, by the way. But he just liked that. I think he saw passion, compassion, drive, tenacity, courage, you name it. I think he saw it in me. He's like, I'm going to hire you overnights, which meant I had to go to work like at 10 o'clock at night. And you're just going to be covering car wrecks and things like that. It's okay. And he goes, and in 6 months, if you suck, I'm going to fire you. And I said, okay. And as I'm walking out, I remember I said, Paul, may he rest in peace, he died of cancer. I said, why'd you hire me? And he said, because when I asked you, where did your parents go to college? You didn't hesitate to tell me they were undocumented. You could have lied. You could have been ashamed of them. You could have made up a story, but you didn't. And that's what we need. We need journalists to have the courage to, to not be afraid, to speak their truth. And I knew, you're not afraid because you spoke proudly of them. And I said, thank you, God. I love what I do. And so today, I'm at the stage in my career where, fortunately, not gonna work, I really don't have to work. I cover the stories I want. The last story that I did was on the woman who created Juneteenth, the holiday, the one that had Biden sign it into law or into a federal holiday. Miss Opal, she lives in Fort Worth, not far from me. I just spent the afternoon hanging out with her in her bedroom. She laid in her easy chair. I laid on her bed. We just talked. This is a career that will have you meet the best people in the world, like Miss Opal, and the worst. I've interviewed serial killers. You will see the good, bad, ugly, and where you can make a difference. I've covered the Super Bowl twice. I've covered the Oscars. I've covered numerous hurricanes, several mass shootings before they were mass shootings. I've interviewed many presidents, not Obama and not Trump, but I've covered them when they've come into town. I have been where history happens. You read about it, I was there. But I will say this, that the experiences you get are priceless. Priceless. I mean, it's just amazing the people that I have met in my career and continue to meet. So it's beautiful. And along the way, I've gotten 50 awards, including 7 Emmy Awards. My little Emmy. See, that's the last one I got. This one was about, I found out that the US Post Office had registered sex offenders delivering your mail. And the Postal Service didn't know. So because of my story, they created a policy that if you are a US mail person carrier and you've become a registered sex offender, you need to tell them. Before, you didn't have to. You just took a leave of absence, went to prison, and came back to work. And I did that.
Rebecca, do you have any, you gave us a couple words of wisdom. So are there any clearinghouse, anything that we didn't ask you about today that you want to make sure that these students who are about to go into the wonderful wide world of journalism have in their arsenal?
I think I want you to listen to my 5 C's that are important. And there's one thing I want you to do is build your network of success. Again, a mentor, a good professor. These are people you will lean on once you get out of school or during school. That's what I call my network of success. I'm a success because I have one network and then I have another. Network 24/7. Don't be afraid to say, hey, Rebecca, you don't know me, blah, blah, blah. Because that could lead to a job, an opportunity. And then I want you to follow my 5 C's of success. Always have compassion. Always put yourself in someone else's shoes. Always be curious. When you're at Starbucks, don't be looking at your phone. Look up. Who walked through that door? Could be Taylor Swift with a little hat. You never know. Look up. Stop looking at your phone. Have courage. Have courage to speak up for someone else in your class. Whether you're taking on a politician, whether you're taking on a professor, speak up in the newsroom, in the classroom. Have confidence in yourself. Don't let, I'll be blunt, bullshit get in your head. Have confidence in yourself. You're going to this great school. You're in this class. Have confidence in yourself. Look, you've already started. And I think the last one is have commitment. If you're committed to journalism, do it. If you're committed to get into politics, do it. If you're committed to change the world, do it. But do it with an open heart and an open mind. Okay? And find me on all the social media. And if you need anything, let me know. All right? Is that good?
That was great. And by the way, she's very fun to follow. So we follow her on social media.
Thank you, guys.